Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue. Our guest today spent more than 50 years covering sports in Philadelphia. He was, I guess you could say, trans-generational. He was a visionary. He was transmedia. He began in the print business, went on to radio, television, and film, and a playwright. His name, Ray Didinger. He covered mostly football in this town, but also, and here's the link to our show, he was a golf reporter for the Philadelphia Bulletin back when he first began his career as a sports writer. Ray Didinger, our guest, next, here on Inside Golf.
The 25th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. Your next golf getaway is in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Visit montcogolf.com. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, a community of professionals enhancing the game of golf since 1925. Make sure you thank your golf course superintendent today. By Gap, celebrating 125 years of amateur golf. By Jersey Man and Philly Man magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue free at jerseymanmagazine.com. By the Haverford Trust Company. For life's must-haves, there's Haverford. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia PGA Section, the experts in the game and business of golf.
Golf is the great equalizer. For many, this journey is an escape from reality, a chance to be part of a team, a career opportunity. PGA Reach impacts lives through golf by lifting people up, giving them hope, and sending them down an alternate path that they never saw coming. With PGA Reach Philadelphia, as in life and in golf, the most important shot you take is the next one.
And welcome back to Inside Golf. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more than just golf, but we will talk about golf with our guest, Ray Didinger. And Ray, as I said in my opening, you are a transgenerational figure when it comes to covering sports in the Philadelphia area, transmedia. You've done so many things, 5-6 decades of covering sports. 53 years. 1968 out of Temple, before that St. James High School in Chester. Things have changed, haven't they, in 53 years?
So much, hard to believe. The one thing that hasn't changed is my address. I never had to leave Philadelphia, which I feel very fortunate about. I mean, typically in our business, in the media business, it's nomadic. Guys hop from this market to that market, and you hope that at some point you'll work your way back to home. In my case, I was so lucky I never had to leave home. I mean, I got my first job out of Temple at the Delaware County Daily Times, which was then the Chester Times. Started there, and then went to the Philadelphia Bulletin, and then off I went. And changed different. Went to TV, went to radio, spent a decade with NFL Films. Wrote some books, but I never had to leave Philadelphia, and I always felt fortunate about that.
And in those days, the Eagles, I don't think, were the team in terms of fan attraction that they have become. It's changed. I don't know when you can put your finger on it. Maybe it was the Dick Vermeil era when things really turned in the Eagles' favor. They went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So, I mean, that had a lot to do with it.
Sure.
But when you started, you were only 2 years out of college.
Right.
And Jack Wilson at the Bulletin, who was the sports editor,
right,
gave you a plum assignment of beat reporter.
Sure did. Surprised everybody, including me. The guy who had been covering the Eagles for 25 years was a guy named Hugh Brown. And his name was just identified with the Eagles. I mean, if you picked up the Bulletin, and the Bulletin was the paper in Philadelphia at the time, you saw the name Hugh Brown, you knew that was the Eagles. I mean, he was the guy he was the go-to guy for information on the Philadelphia Eagles. And in 1969, Huey retired, and so the Bulletin had to find a new football writer. And I had only been there for 1 year. I had only been there for 1 year, and I had covered high school sports. And so when Jack Wilson called me over one day and said, I'm putting you on the Eagles beat, I was shocked. I mean, and in fact, I said to him, I said, and I was still calling him Mr. Wilson. I said, Mr. Wilson, I don't know. And he said, no. He said, I think you're ready for this. And looking back, I don't think I was, but it was a great opportunity. And I mean, he knew he was throwing me into the deep end of the pool. I mean, he knew that. He was aware of that. But he was willing to suffer through my mistakes and let me grow into the job.
Jerry Williams was the head coach. What kind of a relationship did you develop with Jerry Williams?
I had a very good relationship with Jerry. Jerry recognized the situation I was in. Jerry recognized that I was a young guy who was in many ways kind of overmatched. But he could tell that I was trying hard, that I was trying to be competitive, and I wanted to do a good job, and I did. And so he told me very often that, if I can help you with anything, if you have any questions, just come and ask me. And at that time, a real advantage I had was the Eagles' offices were in the Bulletin Building.
That's right.
Because the Eagles were still, this was their last year playing at Franklin Field. So the team's offices were on the first floor of my building, the Philadelphia Bulletin Building. So Jerry had this understanding with me that he said, look, every Friday's going to be our light day. Friday we're going to knock off practice early. And so, why don't you just come on down to my office? Let's say, come down to my office Fridays at 4 o'clock. And just come on in, let yourself in, and I'll lay out the game plan for you. And we can talk about. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'll show you some things we're going to do. And if you have any questions, you can ask me about them. And so, that was a tremendous advantage that the head coach of the team was willing to be really kind of almost a mentor for me that first year. And having the team literally in our building was a huge plus.
Now, did he do it for other beat reporters as well?
No.
Like Bill Shevsky of the Daily News? Or
Nope, they were on their own.
So you had that one-upmanship.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, but those other guys, they were veteran guys. They had been around and they knew what they were doing. I didn't. So all of that overtime that I could put in and any input I could get from the coaches was to my advantage because, frankly, especially that year, I felt like I was playing catch up.
Sure. Who are your favorite players on those early teams?
Billy Bradley. Billy Bradley was
defensive back out of Texas.
Defensive back out of Texas. Defensive back and punter and punt returner and holder for place kicks and all
and a character
and a total character. And that was one of the problems. That was actually one of the problems I encountered that year was because I was the same age as the players. I mean, I was 23, and I was single, and so I had. We had the same taste in music, we had the same taste in movies, we had the same taste in clothes, we had the same taste in girls. so I actually, Billy and I would go out at night together.
Really? You'd hang out with Billy Bradley?
Yeah, and because he was living in town. He was actually living at what was then the Ben Franklin Hotel at 8th and Market Street. And so every so often we'd go out to the Main Point and see some music, or we'd go to a movie together.
That's great.
And so we became friends. Actually, I finally had to tell Billy, I kind of had to say, this really probably isn't a great arrangement. I am the reporter covering the team, so I kind of have to maintain my objectivity. And, if you mess up in one of these games, I'm going to have to write about it.
And you won't go to the Main Point anymore. You won't get the phone call.
well, Billy being Billy said, well, and I just won't mess up. Problem solved.
Didn't he hold the record for interceptions, I think, for the Eagles?
He led the league in interceptions 2 years in a row, which had never happened before. It had never happened in the history of the National Football League that a guy had repeated winning the interception title. But Billy did it in 71 and 72, which was a pretty amazing feat when you consider he was playing on a bad team.
Sure.
Normally the guys that lead the league in interceptions are on winning teams, where teams are playing catch up and the ball's in the air all the time. To be the league leader in interceptions 2 years in a row, playing for a losing team, is pretty extraordinary, but Billy was a pretty extraordinary player.
Tells you they threw a lot against the Eagles, too.
Yes.
We'll be back. Take a break with Ray Didinger. We'll talk some golf, and we're here at White Marsh Valley Country Club. There's a linkage between Ray Didinger and White Marsh Valley. Stay with us to find out what that is all about. Coming up next, right here on Inside Golf.
Do you think this Valley Forest vacation was your idea? We've been controlling us the whole time. This racing game is great. but nothing beats the real thing.
That sloth you think I love so much gets me a free trip to the zoo.
They don't know they're hungry yet, but I do. I'm starving!
Charlie, Charlie. Works every time.
Just wait until you see what I plan for the next trip. Visit Valley Forge, where kids make the rules.
The oldest state or regional golf association in the country hits a milestone this year. GAP celebrates its 125th birthday. Celebrating amateur golf since 1897, GAP has evolved to include 300-plus member clubs, more than 90,000 individual members. It offers events for males and females of all ages and ability levels. GAP continues to uphold its mission to preserve, protect, and promote the game of golf. Happy birthday, GAP.
Welcome back. Our conversation with Ray Didinger continues here at White Marsh Valley Country Club. Let's talk a little bit. I teased about golf. Mm-hmm. I think the year you told me the last time you played golf was right here. What year was it?
1976.
That goes back.
It sure does.
What happened?
It was IVB. This was back when the IVB golf tournament was being played here. This was actually a PGA Tour stop, and they played here, and it was a really good tournament. I got big players here. And so in 1976, I was covering golf for the Philadelphia Bulletin, and like a week before the tournament, they had press day. So they let the reporters come out and play the course, and the course at that point been set up for the tournament. So I got to come out and I got to play White Marsh Valley, and my golf game was sort of not at the best at that time. I was getting kind of frustrated for me. So I sort of scuffled around the course that day. But on the 18th hole here, I hit probably the 3 best shots of my life back to back. I hit a perfect drive in the middle of the fairway. I hit a 5-iron into the green about 5 feet from the cup, sank it for a birdie, and said, you know what, I'm done. And
That's
that was
it.
Tossed the clubs in the trunk of my car and never played again.
Good for you. Most people don't have that chance to quit on a high note. Did you cover as a columnist with the Bulletin or Daily News, whatever, any of golf events like majors and things like that?
Oh yeah, a lot of them. Because
Did you?
the golf writer, a guy named Joe Schwendeman, when I went to the Bulletin, left almost after I got there right away, and he went to the PGA Tour as their PR director.
Oh.
And so all of a sudden now they needed a golf writer, and because I was hired as the high school writer, obviously there wasn't anything to do in the summertime, so they said, how do you feel about covering golf? So I said, great. So I covered golf, I covered all the majors for about 6 or 7 years there at the Philadelphia Bulletin. And it was a really good time to cover golf because, Arnie was still pretty competitive. Jack Nicklaus was really emerging as the guy, but Billy Casper and Gary Player were still playing well. And then you also had that influx of, good young players that came in, the Tom Watsons, the Johnny Millers, Tom Weiskopf, all those guys came in. So it was if you were going to write golf, that was a good era to write golf.
Did you get to Augusta?
Oh, sure.
Really?
Loved it.
How about that?
Yeah, I loved it. It was magical. I mean, you just walk up that walkway surrounded by the azaleas and you see that clubhouse, the stuff you had only seen on television. And it was like, wow, okay, I'm at Augusta. That was really impressive. The first Masters I covered was 1970, and it went down to a playoff. It went down to a playoff with Gene Littler and Billy Casper. It turned out to be a really good one. The other player that was really coming on at that time was Lee Trevino.
Who won at Marion?
In the
playoff against Jack. Were you
Against
there
Jack.
when he pulled the rubber snake
Yes,
out?
I was standing right there at the first tee when Lee Trevino pulled out the rubber snake and threw it at Jack on the first tee. I don't know that Jack ever really recovered from that, and Trevino won that playoff going away.
I think you're right. Yeah, that kind of shook even the Golden Bear a little bit.
I think it did, yeah, but that was typical of Trevino.
So your career took a turn a little bit after how many years at the Bulletin when you went to work for NFL Films?
Well, I went to work for NFL Films like in 1996, so it's almost 20 years into the business that I decided I got the opportunity, the very special opportunity to go work at NFL Films for the great Steve Sable. And, I had really liked newspapering. I really was happy with newspapering. That's really all I ever thought I was going to do. But who can turn down the Sables and who can turn down NFL Films? So I went there and I worked there for a decade. And for somebody that loves football, like I love football, there's no better place to work than NFL Films. They have really influenced sports television. I mean, all the stuff they do on the networks now, all the stuff you see on sports TV now, it's everybody trying to copy what NFL films pioneered years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. The slow motion, the art of the slow motion.
Yep.
The breath coming out of linemen's mouths on cold days. Oh my God.
Yeah, they
raised the bar a few stories.
Yeah, and putting mics on coaches and players, which no one else had ever done before. I mean, they were able to take people, the fans, inside the game in a way that no other sport has been able to do. And I really do think that they contributed greatly to the explosion of popularity of pro football. I mean, they gave pro football a storytelling vehicle that no other sport had.
We're going to take a break. Teed off panel coming up next, and then we'll be back with Ray to wrap things up and get an idea of who were some of his favorite coaches, maybe some of his not so favorite coaches or players. We'll be back with Ray Didinger. Stay with us here on Inside Golf.
It rewards the birdies, but you're always in it because you can catch up by tens if you score well.
Welcome back. Inside Golf now continues from Lulu Country Club in Upper Dublin. We're on the back deck. Beautiful day, sunshine, plenty of golfers behind us. And if you want more information on how you can be one of them, go to their website. It is lulucc.com. The Lou, that's all you have to say. You'll find it. Speaking of members, golfers here at Lulu, Jim Sullivan is one of them. Always play.
How you doing, Harry? Thanks for having me.
All right, place is looking great.
It's a great spot.
Yeah, we
Great
should be
spot.
out there instead of sitting here. Jeff Moore, a.k.a. The Moose from Swing It and Ding It. It's a podcast. He's also working with Harry Mays on, or do you do something at parks occasionally?
No,
or?
well, Harry does.
Harry does,
Yeah,
okay. But Swing It and Ding It is coming on, and we're glad to see you. We did a show with you two guys, and now we have you
A lot of fun.
teed off. You're moving up. And speaking of moving up, Matt Fry, he's been around forever, Director of Communications, Philly section of the PGA. Matt, you play a lot when you have time, of course. Do you have a friendly format, or maybe not so friendly, I don't know, but where, you feel comfortable playing like high-low with another guy? How do you determine that based on handicaps, throw balls? What's your preference?
Well, I prefer to do high-low as far as pairing teams. Honestly, I really love match play. Just a straight match play between two teams I think is fantastic because you're never really out of it.
So that's traditionally like a foursome.
Correct, yeah. When I was in college, I was a mediocre golfer. I probably still am a mediocre golfer.
Self-described.
Yes, but that was the only way I could keep up with the big guys who knock it a mile past me was match play because I could make a few putts and win a couple holes here and there, and I did all right. So I'm going to ride that good mojo into the rest of my career, hopefully.
Any other types of matches that you like to play with in partners?
I like sixes because you get a chance to play with everyone, but Vegas, to me, that's the most fun. Played it for the first time. We went to the Dominican, played at Casa de Campo, played Teeth of the Dog, and for someone like me who's not very good, still learning, if you have that blow-up hole, you don't crush your team. You take the two highest scores, so if it's a 4, 5, and a 7, it's a 45. So it really rewards birdies. If you have someone on your team, it rewards the birdies, but you're always in it because you can catch up by tens if you score well.
Now, your wife's not watching. What were you playing for?
She doesn't watch anything.
On your points?
Not too much.
$1, $2?
Yeah, a couple bucks, or more about like dinners that
night. You
night.
get crazy.
Oh yeah.
Because you get birdies, and then all of a sudden you're reversing the high scores, and then you get birdies and eagles on the same hole, and that's happened in my lifetime with me on the positive side. It was a big hole, let's put it that way, okay? And it could get turned around in a heartbeat on the very next hole. You look like a Vegas guy, huh?
I would love to say that I've played Vegas a lot. I've played a handful of times in my life, and it's fun. It's a great game. There's another game called, and I think it's called backgammon, but we just play double, where at any point during the hole, you can double the bet. If you start on the tee, you're playing for $1 a hole. Me and you against Jeff and Matt. And let's say they both hit it out of bounds off the tee. We can double at that point, and they can decline and pay us the $1, or they can accept and try to figure it out. And then if somehow it turns back in their favor, they can double us back. And sometimes you'll get to where there's 2 or 3 doubles on a hole, and there's pressure on it, and it's fun. I was not witness, but have heard stories of a couple unbelievable Vegas stories. So the Heinemann family is a legendary golf family in the area, right? And the father was probably the best of the family, but his two sons had great reputation. Philadelphia amateur champion caliber players, and they had about an 18 handicap friend that they played plenty of golf with. And on the 13th hole at Huntington Valley, and they're playing Vegas's for a dime a point or something, but on the 13th hole at Huntington Valley, where you have to hit a 7 or an 8 iron over the pond, Tommy Hyman hits it a foot from the hole, and Bucky Hyman hits it in the hole. All right, so they've got 12 on the board, and the 18 handicap proceeds to hit 3 in the lake, right in the pond, right away. Maybe eventually gets his 4th onto dry land somewhere, but he's going to make a 12 or something on the hole.
Got to finish the hole.
And
did they max it out at
Big
like
Bill
9?
knocks it in the hole for a 1 to cancel all the doubling and reversing and all of that. Maybe the greatest shot of all time.
How about that? Under the gun, he delivered.
Under the gun.
How about that? I've had, like I say, we've all had those experiences. It's a great game. How about in determining, like my handicap? Have you ever just throw balls? Like, you know, everybody marks up a ball and throw them over the shoulder, and the 2 closest play together. They may be the 2 lowest guys against the 2 highest guys. I think maybe the higher guys have the advantage in that match, don't they? Regardless of what format you're playing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, it's really nice for the folks who don't necessarily keep regular handicap. So you just throw up the balls and leave it to luck and chance.
That's it. It's in the air how it blows. Do you have any? Do you ever play 9s? Like that's only usually with a threesome if you don't get a 4th, where each hole is worth 9 points, and the winner of the hole gets, say, 5, and the next guy gets 3, and then whoever is the worst gets 1.
Yep.
And sometimes you have ties, like 5-2-2, and you add it all up, and
That's a good game.
pay off.
A lot of times you keep it easy, just go with cart score. So low cart, low total. This way you're driving with the person, you're at least, you know, on the same team, right? And can keep the conversation going, trying to get that next hole and get the win on the next hole.
Right. Well, there you go. How do you like to play the game? You've heard from our guys. I'm sure you have a story to tell to share. And, you know, hey, send in to Inside Golf. Share it with us. What are the best formats that you like to play? Thanks, fellas. We'll be back. More of Inside Golf in just a moment.
Designed by Donald Ross, Lulu Country Club is one of the premier private golf courses in Montgomery County. This classic 18-hole course boasts a new state-of-the-art clubhouse with many amenities for members to enjoy. Members are invited to play in events, tournaments, and enjoy guest privileges. For more information, contact membership at lulucc.com.
While most drivers spend their lives going from point A to B, in America, we're all about point X. That's why our most versatile BMW X-Range vehicles are proudly manufactured right here in Spartanburg, South Carolina. The BMW X-Range, your next X-Venture, starts here.
Visit your local BMW center today for attractive lease and finance offers.
For over 2 decades, First Tee has created experiences that build character. We believe every kid deserves to feel supported, safe to try something new, and to be prepared for what comes next. We develop their swing, but more importantly, their inner strength. Because we know what's inside doesn't just count, it changes the game. Come join us at First Tee.
Welcome back to Inside Golf. We're going to wrap it up here with Ray Didinger on a picture-perfect golf day.
Sure is.
Nice and warm here at White Marsh Valley Country Club. His last place he ever played golf, by the way, so you talk about irony. I'm going to play a little like word association with you. I'll just give a title. You give a name.
Gotcha.
In terms of your favorite football coach in Philadelphia.
Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil, a great coach, obviously, going into Pro Football Hall of Fame this summer. But just as a person, I mean, his loyalty, his ability to connect with people, his ability to communicate, and what he built in Philadelphia, and then what he built later with the St. Louis Rams, taking over teams that were just hapless and building them into Super Bowl teams was just extraordinary.
How about the most difficult football coach in terms of just relationship with the media?
Easy, Buddy Ryan. Yeah, Buddy and I just never got along.
Really?
Yeah, I never thought he was a good head coach. I mean, good defensive coordinator, but I never thought he was a good head coach. I never thought he'd win here. I know the fans loved him. They loved that rock'em sock'em brand of football that he had, and he always beat the Cowboys, which people liked here. But I just never thought he was a very good head coach, and I was not afraid to write that, and Buddy kind of resented that.
How about baseball? Favorite coach, manager?
Dallas Green, because
Tough.
Oh yeah, he was. But from a sports writer standpoint, Dallas was great because he told you exactly what was on his mind. Players didn't like it very much, but as a sports writer, it was very refreshing to have a manager that you could ask a question and get a straight answer. And with Dallas, it was always a straight answer.
How about in the sport of basketball in Philadelphia? There have been some legendary coaches.
It's Jay Wright. I mean, I look at what he's done at Villanova, and we had some great ones. I mean, Jack Ramsey. I mean, the Jack Ramsey coaching tree has influenced basketball for generations. Great coach Jack Kraft, all of those guys, Chuck Daly. But you look at what Jay Wright built out on the main line and what he did at Villanova, winning 2 national championships and building a program that they were able to win without scandal. I mean, in this day and age, he brings kids in. Most of them stay the full term. They get their degree and they go on, and he was the definition of winning it the right way.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, Harry.
We're going to miss hearing you on the radio, watching you on television. Maybe you'll come back. Maybe you'll get a little itchy and say, maybe 3 or 4 shows a year or something like that. I mean, what would Post-Game Live be without Ray Didinger?
Well, I guess we'll find out.
I guess we will. All right, Ray, thank you. Thanks for your friendship over the years.
It's been a pleasure, Harry.
Glad to see you back here at White Marsh Valley.
I am too. Where's my 4-iron?
That's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf and a few other sports with Ray Didinger. I'm Harry Donahue. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't pick up. There's always that next hole. We'll see you next time right here on Inside Golf.
The 25th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. Your next golf getaway is in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Visit montcogolf.com. By the First Tee Greater Philadelphia. The First Tee not only helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit firstteephiladelphia.org. By the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, a community of professionals enhancing the game of golf since 1925. Make sure you thank your golf course superintendent today. By Gap, celebrating 125 years of amateur golf. By Jersey Man and Philly Man magazine, a digital publication and private business network. Read the current issue free at jerseymanmagazine.com. By the Haverford Trust Company. For life's must-haves, there's Haverford. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998. The Philadelphia PGA Section, the experts in the game and business of golf.